give up that easily. Can I become a hero even though I'm quirkless? Izuku shouted, stopping All Might in his tracks. Is it possible for a person without a quirk to become like you? Izuku said while looking. All Might was favorite hero, he had to know what the number one hero thought of his situation. No quirk. All Might said softly. Izuku looked down with a small smile on his face. Because I don't have a quirk, nearly everyone tells me it's impossible for me to become a hero. They laugh and say I'm crazy for thinking that. Izuku was so into his thoughts he didn't see the smoke cloud form around All Might. Only one man ever believed in me, and with his help I gained confidence in my dream. Izuku then slowly started to look up. I want to save people and give them hope like you do and that man gave. Hua. Izuku suddenly shouted at the shocking sight in front of him. In front of Izuku was a somewhat tall stick of a man with long blonde hair, sunken eyes and cheeks, and loose cloths on. Izuku's mind went into overdrive as he tried to process what he was seeing. All Might. Yes, I am All Might. The man said, blood leaking out of his mouth like a waterfall. How? Was all the teen could ask. You know those people who flex at the pool to make themselves look buff? Izuku slowly nodded. That's me. So you have a transformation quirk? The teen said with a weak smile. All Might gave a soft laugh as he pointed to Izuku. You're taking this better than most, kid. The hero said as he sat on the ground. A symbol of peace comes with many prices. All Might said as he lifted his shirt. This is one of them. Izuku winced when he was half of All Might's chest covered in scars. Holy shit. I got this wound about 5 years ago from a villain attack. All Might said with a sigh. Result: semi-destruction to my respiratory system and total removal of my stomach. My face is emaciated and haggard, my eyes are side effects of repeated surgeries. Currently, I can't work actively as a hero more than about 3 hours a day. This is my limit. Izuku was shell-shocked. To think the number one ranked hero was in such a state, and still fighting. 5 years ago, when you fought the villain, Venomous Chainsaw. All Might laughed at that. You know your stuff, kid, but no, it was someone else. Someone much stronger. All Might said as a serious look crossed his face. What I told you must never be publicly disclosed, I ask you to never reveal this to anyone. Izuku instantly raised his hands. Don't worry, I get it. Besides, who would believe me if I said All Might is weakening? Izuku said with a nervous laugh. You be surprised, kid. All Might said in a serious voice, making Izuku stop laughing. Professionals must always put their lives at stake. He said before giving a long sigh. So, I can't openly say that being a hero is possible without a quirk. Because it may not be possible, simply. Izuku felt like he was just punched in the gut hard as he stared at his hero get up from the floor. I see. Izuku said in a quiet tone as he looked down. If all you care about is to save people, then become a policeman. All Might said as he slowly made his way across the roof. That way, you are also responsible for receiving the villains. A job often ridiculed and disparaged, but no less admirable. The hero said as he turned his back to the kid. It's not a bad thing to dream. But be careful not to obscure the facts, kid. The hero said with a sigh as he made his way to the door. No. All Might stopped in his tracks as he turned to the kid, whose head was looking down. What? The teen looked up with a determined look in his eye, but also a little anger. I said no. He said in a louder voice, making the hero take a step back from the sudden outburst. You think you're the first to tell me what I'm doing is pointless, to tell me I'm weak, that it's impossible. The whole world's been telling me that for 10 years. Izuku roared. My doctors, my teachers, other heroes, my so-called friends who left me since it was discovered I was quirkless, even my mom didn't think I could be a hero. Izuku looked at his hand before balling it into a fist. But one man believed in me. He said I could become a hero if I trained my body and mind to the limits and beyond. And that's what I did. I trained for 5 years to become a hero. Izuku then turned to All Might, who looked at the teen with shocked expression. I'm going to prove to the world that a quirkless nobody can become a hero. I'm going to give people hope when they need it the most, because any less would be spitting on that man's grave. Izuku finished, leaving All Might slightly slake-jawed. Without saying a word, Izuku suddenly started running towards the edge of the room. Kid, wait. Izuku ignored the hero and stuck his hand into his back before pulling out his grapple gauntlet on his left arm. It was a sleek metal gauntlet that looked like a glove with a folded-up metal claw at the forearm. Once Izuku reached the edge of the roof, he jumped the gate with one leap and stuck his left arm out. In an instant, a metal line shot out and the metal claw dug into stone wall. Izuku swung down to the street level and landed safely. Looking back, Izuku saw a shocked expression of All Might looking down at him. Izuku's only response was a small salute before he ran down the street. Izuku sighed as he walked down the sidewalk with a sad expression. Even if he did tell All Might off, it was still hard to hear that even his favorite hero didn't think he could be a hero. Then I'll show him, Izuku said as he squeezed his fist tight. I'll show him and everyone that Clint Barton was right in believing in me, and that I can become a hero. Izuku shouted as he started to walk down the sidewalk again. As Izuku watched, he heard a commotion on his left, making him turn to see something was going on in a shopping district. Maybe some heroes fighting villains will make me feel better, Izuku said as he started to walk to the district. As the teen entered, he kept his ear open. From what he heard, a villain has taken someone hostage and the heroes were having trouble with the villain since he was forcing the person to use their quirk, which was pretty strong. So the heroes were just sitting back and waiting for someone to come with a better quirk, which was stupid. Heroes are always in hard situations since they have to worry about the villains, civilians, and collateral damage. A hero needs to know when to adapt in order to counter any situation, not just wait for someone with a better quirk. As Izuku made it to the front of the crowd, he was shocked to see the same slime villain. When I grabbed All Might, the bottle must have fell out, Izuku shouted in his head as guilt washed over him. Fuck, this is my fault. Just hang on and a hero will come save you. Izuku then remembered what the villain said to him in the tunnel. He said it takes 45 seconds for him to take over a body, maybe it's longer the harder a person struggles, but it will still happen. What going to happen? Why aren't the heroes doing anything? What about? Izuku's mind screeched to a halt as he made eye contact with the hostage. It was Bakugo. And he was looking right at Izuku with desperate eyes. Before Izuku could even finish his thought, he was already moving. Moron. Stop. Stop. The heroes called for him, but he ignored them. Izuku pulled out CC and his grapple gauntlet from his bag. As he ran he pointed an arrow right at the villain. "Don't think about shocking me like last time, punk," the villain shouted as Bakugo struggled. "You shock me, you shock this kid." "Who said this was a shock arrow?" Izuku shouted as he fired. The arrow cut through the air and nailed the slime villain right in the eye. "Ah! You bastard!" the slime villain yelled as blood poured out of his eye. Izuku didn't stop running until he was on the slime villain a second later. "Bakugo!" the teen yelled as he reached into the slime body and grabbed the blonde by his shirt. "Why?" Bakugo yelled as his mouth came up for air. "Why are you here?" "I have no idea, my legs moved on their own." Izuku yelled as he tightened his grip around Bakugo's right shirt and threw his bow on his back. "But really, it looked like you needed help," Izuku said with a big smile. The slime villain roared as it raised his hand. "I was almost finished, you little shit. I'm going to kill you. In your dreams." Izuku yelled as he pointed his grapple gauntlet back and fired. The claw shot out about 20 feet back and embedded in the stone floor. The gauntlet pulled Izuku from his spot along with Bakugo, taking the blonde teen out of the slime's body as the hand came down, barely missing them. "I'm not done yet," the slime villain roared as he chased after the two teens. Izuku used all his strength to throw Bakugo to the side as the slime. As soon as Izuku hit the ground he pulled out his bow and an arrow with a baby blue tip. "Checkmate," Izuku said as he pointed the arrow at the villain as it was about to consume Izuku. But before the teen could fire the arrow, a large figure shadowed over them both. "I really am pathetic, I can't even follow my own words." Both Izuku and the slime villain looked up to see All Might standing behind Izuku. The number one hero pulled his arm back as blood poured from his mouth, though only Izuku noticed that. The professionals put their lives all the time in the game. Detroit Smash. The punch All Might threw was so strong, it tore the villain's body apart and created an updraft, changing the weather in the sky, casing it to rain. Izuku, along with practically everyone, were in awe by the event that was just shown. After the heroes collected themselves, they collected the pieces of the slime villain's body from all around, having the police take him away. Izuku was yelled at by the heroes for getting involved, the heroes saying they had everything under control. Bakugo on the other hand was praised by the heroes around him, saying he had a powerful and cool quirk. Some even tried to ask the blonde to become their sidekicks once he became a pro hero. Izuku wanted to point out if he hadn't acted, the slime villain would have taken over Bakugo's body, making him stronger and killing the teen. Yet Izuku didn't want to cause himself any more trouble, he was very emotionally drained. After everything was settled, All Might left and Izuku started to make his way home. "I think I'm just going to skip training today and just rest. I'm too drained to train," Izuku thought with a sigh. "Hey, Deku." Izuku turned around to see Bakugo glaring at him with a pissed-off look. "I never asked you to come and help me," the blonde yelled with an angry look on his face. The green-haired teen however sighed at that. "Can you drop the edgy act for 5 minutes and talk like a normal person?" Izuku groaned. "That's another thing I hate about you." That seemed to piss off Bakugo even more. "I didn't need any saving. I could have gotten out." "No, you couldn't have," Izuku said in a calm voice that made Bakugo pause. "That slime villain was going to take over your body in less than a minute. The heroes were going to wait for someone with a better quirk. If I didn't act, you would be dead." Bakugo looked like he swallowed a lemon. So what, you want me to apologize? Is that why you saved me, so I would owe you one? I didn't turn my back on you, Kachan. Izuku yelled as he rounded on the blonde, who looked shocked. You turned your back on me. When you learned I was quirkless, you were determined to forget about our friendship. I tried to be friends with you despite everything, but apparently you only want me to jump off the school roof and kill myself. Or did you forget what you said only a few hours ago? Bakugo looked like he swallowed a hard pill as he looked into Izuku's hard eyes. I didn't actually mean it. Izuku cut off with a laugh. It didn't feel that way when you told me to take a swan dive off the roof of the school with a fucking smile on your face. Bakugo actually looked away from that, not meeting Izuku's eyes but still had a glare on his face. That's what I hate about your personality, you say what you want, not caring how it affects people. That made Bakugo growl at Izuku. Well, if you hate me, why did you save me? Izuku looked at Bakugo right in the eyes before he turned around with a sigh. Like I said, you turned your back on me. You might have stopped wanting to be friends, but I didn't. Izuku put a hand over his heart. A small piece of me can't forget how we used to be friends. So no, I can't let you die. Bakugo stared at Izuku for a long moment before he growled and turned around. Fucking nerd, he said before started to walk away. But before the teen could get far, Izuku called out to him. Bakugo. The green-haired teen called, stopping the blonde and making him glance back, only to see Izuku's hard eyes. I meant what I said at school. I find out you actually drove someone to suicide. I will put you in the hospital for the next 10 months. Bakugo didn't flinch from the intense glare before he clicked his teeth and started to walk away again. Izuku sighed and rubbed his face hard with both his hands. I am too fucking drained. I'm here. None other than All Might ran around the corner with a smile on his face, right in front of Izuku. God damn it. The teen muttered, feeling even more drained from the long day. Then a thought crossed Izuku's head that made the teen sigh harder. All Might, did you hear what me and that guy were talking about? The hero had the decency to look away with a cough. Yeah, I heard. I didn't want to interrupt, it seemed personal. Izuku let out a breath. Well, thanks. So what are you doing here? You were surrounded by the press earlier. All Might gave a heart-filled laugh at that. I can avoid them if I want to, it's part of being a pro-hero. After all, I'm All Might cough. In an instant All Might shrank down to his real size as he spit up a lot of blood. Kid, I came to thank you and make some corrections. And I also have a proposal for you. The hero said while he wiped his mouth of the blood. If you hadn't been there and if I didn't hear your personal story, I might not have been able to continue to call myself a hero. Izuku sighed and shook his head. No, it was my fault. If I hadn't grabbed you, the villain would have been in custody. I disturbed you during your work just because I wanted to ask a question. Izuku said while looking down. About that. All Might said, grabbing the teen's attention. At the time, no one could act. You were the only one who could do it. You. A quirkless person with only a bow and arrow. And that really touched me. Izuku felt voice get caught up in his throat at All Might's words. What you said, my legs moved on their own. Those in best hero ranked heroes say the same thing. All Might looked right into Izuku's eyes as the teen fought back tears. Kid. Yes. Izuku asked as he felt tears start to fall. Even after all these years of training, Izuku could still get emotional. You can become a hero. Izuku felt unbelievably happy that one of his favorite heroes believed in him, that the green-haired teen actually had tears running down his face. Thank you, All Might. Izuku said with a smile as he wiped away the tears. That's why I think you're worthy to inherit my strength. Huh? Izuku said with a confused expression on his face. Huh? That expression is a gag. All Might laughed. But the simple matter is whether or not you'll try your damnedest to absorb my power. I am so fucking lost right now. Izuku said with a sigh, feeling drained dead. Can we talk somewhere more private, and then you can tell me what you're offering? That made the hero pause as he looked around. Perhaps you were right, kid, this is something that should be mentioned in private. Got any suggestions? Izuku felt his stomach grumble lightly. The long day has definitely built him an appetite. I know this sandwich place that mostly empty around this time. They might have something you can eat. Izuku offered. All Might had a thoughtful look on his face before he shrugged. That might be for the best. Just before the two could start moving, Izuku felt his bag vibrate. Reaching into the side pocket, Izuku pulled out his phone and his eyes widened. Over a dozen missed calls from his mom, Lila, May, and Suyu. Right now Lila was calling him. Oh shit. All Might turned to Izuku with a questioning look. Is something wrong? My big sister has been calling me since the villain attack. My condolences. Izuku gave the hero a light glare as he answered the phone with a weak smile. Hey sis. What the hell were you thinking taking on that villain? Lila said in such a loud voice, making Izuku pull his phone away. Even All Might winced at the volume. Izuku turned to the hero with a small sigh. Sigh. This might take a while. Izuku said as his sister continued to yell at him through the phone. After calling everyone on his phone and got a verbal backlash, the two found themselves at the back of an old-school American sandwich shop, which was mostly empty. Izuku had ordered a sandwich while All Might was having a blended sandwich in a cup. This place was very popular for old people and such with no teeth or bad stomachs. Since there was no one in the restaurant, All Might explained what his quirk was. One for all. Izuku muttered in shock. Yes. All Might nodded as he held out his hand. It's the power to transfer power from person to person. It's also known as a stockpile quirk. Every person who's inherited this quirk before, their power is currently in me. So it's a quirk that can pass on the power of all of the previous users onto the next user. Izuku summarized with a thoughtful look on his face. That is impressive. Heroes are already way stronger than normal, even ones without enhancements from quirks. So to have a quirk that gives you the strength of multiple people plus your own, no wonder you are one of the strongest in the world. All Might nodded to Izuku, an impressed look on his face. Exactly. I want to give you this quirk because of what you did back with the slime villain. You acted while the so-called heroes did nothing and instead waited for someone else to help them. Not only that, you were able to pull your friend out before the slime consumed him. All Might then gave Izuku a serious look. However, know that your body needs to be physically fit in order to inherit the power, otherwise you'll just blow your limbs off. So, will you become the successor to my power? Izuku was quiet for a long moment. Most people would kill to inherit the power of All Might. The power alone was nearly a fact to become a top hero. Yet Izuku thought differently than most. I'm sorry All Might, but I can't accept this power, Izuku said while looking right into the hero's eyes. All Might was surprised at being turned down, but kept a calm look on his face. May I ask why? The green-haired teen was quiet for a moment before he spoke. Have you ever heard of a hero named Clint Barton, otherwise known as Hawkeye? All Might had a thoughtful expression on his face. I remember an American hero by that name when I was over there, but I heard he retired. Izuku nodded his head. He was a marksman hero who used a bow and trick arrow as his weapon. He's the one who taught me how to fight. Izuku smiled as he remembered his training under the man. For 5 years I have trained to be a hero, learning everything I could while under him. He was the first person ever to say I could be a hero, that it was just up to me. Izuku then gained a frown on his face. He'd passed away a few months back from cancer. All Might frowned and bowed his head. I'm sorry for your loss, he must have been close to you. Izuku wiped his eye and looked to the hero. There are 2 reasons why I'm turning down your power. The first is that it wouldn't fit with me, Izuku said, making All Might tilt his head. I have a lot of skills, such as martial arts, stealth, sword play, knife play, but most of all is my skills with a bow. If I take your power I would have to redo my entire fighting style just to be effective with your quirk, because what would be the point of being sneaky but having the power to blow away my enemies with a single punch? All Might had a thoughtful look on his face as he nodded his head. I can see what you mean. To retrain someone in less than 10 months what they have been learning for 5 years would be next to impossible. Izuku nodded his head as a more serious look crossed his face. The second is a little more personal, he said, grabbing All Might's attention. All Might, you are known as the sole symbol of peace, a pillar of society. Your very presence alone has dropped crime. But you're only one man, only human, he said in such a serious voice that it almost caught the hero off guard. Most people don't like to think it, but heroes don't live forever. Like Clint, anything can happen, heroes aren't immortal. All Might sighed as he nodded his head. He knew that as a fact how mortal he was given his current condition. Now I'm not saying what you did was wrong, in fact you have done what most would think is impossible, Izuku quickly added. It's just becoming a symbol of peace isn't my goal. I want to create a symbol of peace and hope. Now that caught the hero's attention. Create a symbol of peace and hope. Izuku nodded with a smile on his face and a determined look in his eyes. Right, the problem with one person being the symbol of peace, is that when they stop there is panic, or will be, he said, making the hero wince, dreading the day he'd have to retire. Exactly, so here's my thought. What if a hero group could become a symbol of hope? All Might's eyes widened at that as his voice caught in his throat. A hero group becoming a symbol of hope. Izuku nodded with an exited look on his face. Right, there have been tons of hero groups in the past like the Defenders, Thunderbolts, Wild Pussycats, and the Justice Society of America. All were or are big hero groups names, yet they're not as big as most heroes. I want to create a group of heroes that brings hope to people, and a group of people will be much more solid than one man. If a quirkless nobody can create a hero group that is seen as the symbol of hope, then nothing is impossible. All Might's jaw dropped at what the teen said. Izuku's idea was actually solid, create a hero group so strong that it would become a pillar of society. With the group name being a pillar, members can come and go with ease. It was almost perfect. All Might threw his head back and gave a heart-filled laugh before looking at Izuku with a big grin. Kid, I was completely wrong about you. You're going to make a fine hero someday, he said, making Izuku smile. I respect your decision of not taking my quirks and know I will be rooting for you, he said, making Izuku smile. Thank you, All Might, Izuku said as a question entered his head. All Might, I have a question about your quirk, he said, making the hero tilt his head. Well, depending on what it is, I'll answer, the hero said while taking a sip of his drink. Izuku just waved him off. Don't worry, it's nothing big. I was just wondering how would you tell if I was physically fit enough to take one for all. That made the hero smile. That's easy, I would have had you follow my plan, aim to pass. American dream plan, the hero said with pride. It would have been a hellish training that would have taken 10 months to turn your body into the perfect vessel. Izuku nodded at All Might's explanation, a thought entering his head. Would you mind telling me this workout plan? All Might raised an eyebrow at that. Really, but I thought you didn't want to inherit my power. Izuku quickly waved his hand. It's not that. See, I turned 14 not long ago and I want to start some muscle training since for the past 5 years it's been nothing but technique, marksmanship, and stamina. I couldn't focus on strength training as much since I didn't want to strain my body. All Might folded his arms as he nodded his head. I see, you really are pushing your body in all aspects to maximize your chances to become a hero. The green-haired teen nodded to that. Exactly, so I was hoping if you can give me some tips to help me work out. All Might rubbed his chin with a thoughtful look on his face before he grinned. I'll do you one better, I'll train you, the hero said, shocking Izuku a bit. Think of it as my way of saying sorry for not believing in you, he said in a sincere voice. Izuku grew a big smile on his face as he bowed to the hero. I'm in your care, he said as stars glowed in his eyes. I'm going to be trained by All Might himself. So cool, he said in a slightly giddy voice, making the hero laugh. So I've been wondering, All Might said, grabbing Izuku's attention. If you do make this hero group in the future, what will it be called? Izuku gained a grin on his face as he leaned against the table. Well, since I'm aiming for UA, I thought of the perfect name for my hero group. And the is. The green-haired teen grinned as he spoke one word. Ultra Force. Izuku panted hard as he was running with a weighted vest over his body along with ankle and wrist weights. All Might in his reel from rolling in front of him while on a moped. Faster, young Midoriya, All Might called back as the teen was keeping pace. You only have about 3 miles left. It's been about 1 month since the slime villain incident and Izuku started his training with All Might. It was hard, even for Izuku, but determination was one of the teen's strong points. So taking a deep breath, Izuku rocked forward. About 10 minutes later the two came to a stop and sat on a park bench. You are making great progress following the training plan, All Might said as he handed a water bottle to Izuku. I'm actually a little surprised. Izuku took the water bottle and took a quirk drink. Thanks, but like I said, I've been training for 5 years in a lot of areas and stamina was one of them, Izuku said with a grin as he splashed some water on his face. So have you found anyone to take your power? All Might nodded his head as he took a photo out of his pocket. I found someone who shows a lot of potential, the hero said as he handed the photo to Izuku. Looking at the photo, it showed a 16-year-old boy. He had a big smile on his face, small blue eyes, and light blonde hair. You're giving Tintin your power, Izuku said slowly. The guy did look extremely like the old comic book character. All Might snorted at the green teen. His name is Mirio Tagata, he's currently going to UA and is one of the top students in his class, if not the very top in his whole grade. He's been shown to have a strong conviction and drive to become a hero. All Might added with a smile. He's also a disciple of my old sidekick Sir Night-Eye. He said, making Izuku whistle. What's his quirk? Izuku asked. Permeation. It allows him become intangible at will and he has master control over it. All Might explained, making Izuku's eyes widen. Damn, Izuku muttered as he put a hand on his chin. The ability to phase through objects and attack, but also easily blow away enemies with a punch. He could get into nearly any hostage situation without being noticed or cut through an enemy that was hiding behind an object and/or hostage. He could become unstoppable. All Might nodded at that. There are some drawbacks to his quirk, such as he can't phase things and other people with him, but he works with the drawbacks and has a bright future as a hero. All Might said with a smile as he took the photo and put it away. So what's stopping you from giving him your quirk? Izuku asked while stretching his arm. I need you be very careful who I chose for my quirk, otherwise I could hurt a user who is unfit. All Might said in a serious voice. Izuku raised his eyebrow at All Might. Weren't you going to give it to me, despite barely knowing anything about me? All Might coughed into his hand and gave the teen a weak laugh. Well, I was going to train you to see if you were worthy to inherit my quirk. If you completed my workout plan I would have given it to you, if not I couldn't give it to you. Izuku nodded as he got up from the bench. Well, I think you should give him a chance first, see what he has to offer. If he's got what it takes, offer him your quirk. All Might had a thoughtful look on his face as he nodded. I'll see if I can contact Night-Eye and see what he thinks. The hero said as he got up from the bench. All right, enough resting. We still have a whole workout planned today. All Might said as he hopped on his moped. Izuku grinned and saluted the hero. Right. He said before he started running. After a few more hours of training, Izuku and All Might parted ways and the hero in training started heading home. Izuku currently wear a bandana over his head covering his green fluffy hair and a medical mask covering his face. The bandana was to soak up the sweat on his head to keep it out of his face. The medical mask was to make Izuku breathe a little harder so his heart and lungs could work harder getting him air. Man, All Might wasn't kidding when he said his training was hard. Izuku said as he rolled his shoulders. But I can see it's working. Even if it's only been a month since his training, Izuku could tell there was slight improvements. Every week the workouts was a little easier for him as he worked out with All Might. Not much changed after the slime villain incident. Suyu and his mom did freaked out a bit and told him how stupid it was for endangering himself like that. They however thanked him for showing off their babies on TV. One big change was Bakugo was actually leaving Izuku alone and not even talking to him. He stood out of Izuku's way and the green-haired teen did the same. The two just ignored each other. Probably for the best. Izuku said with a sigh. If we talked before going to UA then we most likely would get into a fight that might get us kicked out, or just him. Despite everything that happened, a very small piece of Izuku was sad they were no longer friends. They grow up together, their mom were friends, and they both wanted to be hero. Yet when Bakugo learned Izuku was quirkless, the blonde stopped being friends with him and started bullying him. Izuku had no idea why Bakugo hated him so much, like no matter what he did the blonde would come up with some reason to hate. It was aggravating, and Izuku was done trying to make up with him when Bakugo didn't even try. The green-haired teen shook his head softly. I should just focus on my training, I got a lot to do with only 9 months left. Izuku then let out a long sigh. I can't wait to go home and take a nice, long, bath. Izuku was cut off when something slammed into his side from a dark ally, making him take a step to the side. Looking down, the teen was surprised at what he saw on the floor. By Izuku's feet was a little girl, no older than 5 years old. She had white hair, pale skin, red eyes, and a single horn growing out of her head. What was really surprising was what she was wearing. She had a white loose hospital gown that reached all the way to her feet. She also had thick bandages around her arms and feet, and she had no shoes on. Alarm bells started to go off like crazy in Izuku's head as he looked down at the girl, who looked at him with scared and despite eyes. Izuku reached his hand down with a concerned look on his face. "Are you all right?" Izuku's hand froze when the girl flinched. "There she is." The little girl froze as Izuku looked up to see four adults in shady outfits exited the alley. One adult had long wild blonde hair that looked like a lion's mane and had a tail behind him. His face also had a giant maw with sharp teeth showing. Another had a long tongue nearly reaching the floor and had warts all over his face. The third one had a giant eye for a head but looked like he had a little mouth under it. The final person was the most normal looking with orange hair and a leather jacket that exposed his arms. Izuku hardened his eyes as he gently grabbed the girl, ignoring her flinch, and pushed her behind him. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" The four suspicious-looking men gave Izuku a surprised look before they all narrowed their eyes. "We don't want any trouble, Vigilante, just hand over the girl," the lion man said, catching Izuku off guard before he realized what he meant. "The bandana and medical mask makes them think I'm some kind of up-and-coming vigilante," Izuku realized before he spoke. "And where are you taking her?" Long Tongue growled and glared at Izuku. "We're taking her to where she belongs. Now hand her over or you will be sorry," he said as the four men let their quirks flare but didn't attack. That was a big mistake. Even without most of his weapons and equipment, Izuku had enough on him to be dangerous. Lion Body Mutation Quirk gives the user the ability of a lion, includes enhanced strength, sharp claws, enhanced senses, and a powerful jaw. Counter: overload the user's senses. Long Tongue Transformation Quirk. The user can extend and enlarge their tongue from their mouth, giving them mid-range combat, distance unknown, power is above average. Counter: close mouth, hard. Laser Eye Emission Quirk. The user can fire a beam of energy from the large eye's pupil, giving them long-range combat. Counter: use close quarter combat, aim for the eye. Thermal Heat Emission Quirk. The user can produce an extreme amounts of heat from the body, mostly the arms, turning it bright red and glowing. Counter: aim for critical areas and make user lose focus. Izuku's mind worked that out all in an instant as he slowly dropped his bag and reached inside. "Little girl," the girl behind Izuku turned to him with a shaky look on her face. "Get down." Before the villains could even react, Izuku pulled out a smoke bomb and slammed it to the ground. A thick black cloud covered the area in an instant, blocking everyone's vision. "What? I can't see. I'm going to blast this kid." "Don't, you might hit the girl." Izuku had already acted as soon as he threw the smoke bomb. The hero in training had pulled out two brass knuckles as he rushed into the cloud. Thanks to his skills and training, Izuku could easily tell where the villains were in the black cloud, even though he couldn't see. The hero in training's eyes landed on a figure that was glowing in the cloud. Izuku bolted towards the figure and slammed his fist into the glowing one's jaw before he could even react, making him lose control of his quirk and turning it off. Izuku threw a sharp left hook into the orange hare's liver, making him double over in pain. Finally, Izuku shot his knee up into the villain's face and smashed it right into his nose, a satisfying crunch being heard. "What happened? Where's the little pissant? Day Glow, give us some light now." Izuku followed the close's voice as the villain fell to the ground, unconscious. As Izuku ran, he felt the air shift as he felt something come on at him from the right. Ducking at the last second, Izuku saw something pink and slimy fly over him. Acting fast, Izuku bolted forward and saw the side of the warts-covered villain. By the time the villain saw Izuku in the corner of his eye, the hero in training was all ready to close. "I see high." Izuku threw a devastating uppercut to the villain's jaw, blood spilling out of his mouth as he bit his big tongue hard, making him scream in pain. Izuku then slammed the brass knuckles into the villain's temple, knocking him out instantly. "Toad, where are you? Fuck this so-called hero is roasted." Izuku went low as the Big Eye villain fired a red laser into the smoke blindly, not caring what he was shooting at. Yet despite this Izuku kept moving. "Damn it, stop firing blindly, you're going to hit the GI." The Lion Man was cut off when Izuku popped in front of him with something in his hands. "There you are, you little." The villain was again cut off, but this time when Izuku sprayed a bottle of pepper spray right into his eyes. "Ah!" The Lion Man roared as his senses were overloaded. "Like your weak eye could hit me." Izuku yelled in a cocky voice as he kicked the lion villain in the stomach, making him stumble back. "I got you now." The large eye yelled before he fired. Izuku hit the floor just in time as a red laser flew over him, hitting the Lion Man and blasting off his feet. "Did I get him? Did I get the little fucker?" The Cyclops was cut off when Izuku rushed him and slammed his fist right into his giant eye. The villain was blown off his feet and instantly knocked out before he hit the ground, a giant swirl in his eye. Once everyone was down Izuku's side as the black cloud fell apart into the wind. Looking around, Izuku saw all the villains were knocked out, except for one. Who are you?" The lion villain asked as he struggled to his feet. Izuku was quiet for a moment as he thought of the perfect answer. "I am the vigilante that cleans up weak trash like you," Izuku said in a dramatic deep voice as he posed in front of the villain. "I am the vigilante of the night, protector of women and children, I am the Smoke Knight." Izuku yelled the first name that popped into his head as he posed again. "Seriously?" On the outside, Izuku was confident and had a determined look in his eye. On the inside, however, the teen was blushing like crazy. He wanted to be a hero, but not the over-exaggerated ones that did stuff like this, but it was necessary to protect his name and image. Super surprise kick. The teen yelled as he launched a high kick at the Lion Man. The villain growled as he brought his claws. "Dumb move, taking me on in the open without your stupid queer." The Lion Man was cut off when Izuku stopped the kick at the last second and brought the bottle of pepper spray, spraying it right into the villain's face again. "Ah. You said you were throwing a surprise kick." The villain couldn't help but complain. "That's the surprise to the kick." Izuku yelled as he launched a high kick right into the villain's jaw, making his head whip back and knocking him out. Izuku sighed as the final villain was knocked out. Turning to the end of the alley, the teen saw the little girl stare at him with complete shock on his face as she hid behind his book bag. As the teen started to make his way over, the girl hid behind his bag with a scared look on her face. "Hey, it's okay," Izuku said softly as he pulled his medical mask off and gave her a soft smile. "It's over now, you're safe," he said as he crouched down across from her. The girl hesitantly brought head out from behind the bag and looked at Izuku. "Safe," she said hesitantly. Izuku smiled and nodded his head. "Yup, but I need you to bring you somewhere safer. Do you know where you live?" "A white room." So many alarms went off in Izuku's head from the girl's one answer. Yet despite everything, the teen kept his smile on his face. "Can I have your name, please?" Izuku asked slowly. "Eri," the girl said softly, bring her head a little more out. "Well, Eri, I have some really good friends that can help us both," Izuku said as he offered his hand to her. "But I need you to come with me." The girl stared at the hand for a long minute, hesitation all over her face. Slowly the little girl brought her bandaged hand up and grabbed Izuku's, making him grin. In one fluid motion, Izuku brought the girl up into his arms along with his bag, making her yelp. The hero in training threw his back onto his back as he started to run down the street as fast as he could, the little girl clinging to him. As they ran, Izuku went into his pocket and pulled out his cell phone, a serious look on his face as he dialed a number. "Please pick up," the teen muttered. After a few rings the phone was answered. "Young Midoriya?" a tired voice asked. "All Might, I have a serious problem," Izuku said softly so the girl wouldn't hear him. "What's wrong?" the hero asked, fully awake. "No." Izuku struggled a bit with his words before he sighed. "It's all a little much and confusing, but I think some villains were kidnapping a kid. I got the kid away but things are looking way too strange." "Where are you now?" All Might asked as there was shuffling on the other line. "About 30 minutes from my home," Izuku said as he turned a corner. "Go home and stay there, I'll come over with a close friend," the hero said as the line ended. Izuku sighed as he put his phone away and continued to run, a worried expression on his face. What the hell is going on? Izuku thought before he started to run at full speed. Around 20 minutes later of constant running, Izuku finally made it home with Eri in his arms. Opening the door, Izuku was greeted with the sight of him mother. "Welcome home, Izuku," she cut herself off when she saw the small child in his arms. "What's going on?" she asked with a concerned look. Eri looked at the woman with a scared face as she held onto Izuku and buried her head into his chest. Izuku noticed this and dropped his bag by the door. I just ran into some trouble," Izuku said as he walked in with the girl in his arms. "Some heroes are going to stop by in a little bit." Heroes," Inko nearly shouted, making the girl flinch. The mother noticed this and a concerned look crossed her face as she looked at the little girl. "Izuku, what's going on?" she asked in a much softer voice. The teen looked at his mother for a long moment before he sighed. "I have no idea." As Izuku moved to the living room, he tried to place Eri down, but the girl was clinging onto him. Please. Just stay," the girl said in a small voice that was almost a whisper. Izuku glanced at the girl before he nodded and rubbed her head. "I'll stay as long as I can," he said as he sat on the couch. Inko watched this with a concerned look on her face as she felt a pit of worry in her stomach. After about 30 minutes in the living room, the bell rang, making Inko stand up. "I'll get it." "Wait," Izuku said, stopping her. The teen looked down at the girl in his arms as she looked back up. "Eri, I need you to let go so I can answer the door. I'll be back in just a few seconds." Eri looked hesitant for a few seconds before she nodded and let go of Izuku. The teen gently placed her down on the couch before heading towards the front door. As Izuku walked, he grabbed a metal baseball bat that was leaning against the wall. The teen walked up to the door and gently opened it, only to see All Might in his muscle form and a man in a trench coat right next to him, making Izuku sigh and drop the bat. "Good to see you, young Midoriya, though I wish it was under better circumstances," the hero said as he gestured to the man next to him. "This is Detective Naomasa Tsukauchi, a very good friend of mine." Izuku instantly recognized the man who was known on the police force as True Man, with the ability to tell when someone was lying or not. The detective gave a small smile as he tipped his hat. "It's nice to meet you, Midoriya. Yagi has told me a lot about you." Tsukauchi's face then turned slightly serious. "Can you explain the situation to us?" Izuku was quiet for a moment before he answered. "I was on my way home after working out with All Might," Izuku said as the two entered his home. "On my way, this little girl ran into me with 4 men chasing her. The girl was scared and quickly hid behind me while the men told me to hand her over. I asked where they were taking her and they said, where she belongs," he said with a grim look on his face before remembering something. "Oh, they also mistook me for an up-and-coming vigilante." Now that caught the hero's attention. "They mistook you for a vigilante?" Tsukauchi asked as his quirk flared. "True." Izuku nodded to the detective. After the workout I was wearing a bandana on my head to soak up my sweat and a medical mask to help make my heart stronger. The villains thought I was a vigilante, so I just went with it, to protect my image and name. Tsukauchi smiled at Izuku as his quirk flared again. True. That was fast thinking, Midoriya. All Might said as he put a hand on Izuku's shoulder. You're still young, we can't have villains targeting you now. The three walked into the living room to see the little girl looking down. Inko, when she looked up, looked like she was having a heart attack. All Might. The woman screamed in shock, making Eri jump. Izuku rubbed the back of his neck. Maybe he should have told him Mom who was exactly coming to his home. The teen ignored his panicking mother for no and walked up to Eri. Eri, this is All Might and Detective Tsukauchi, they're here to help. Izuku said with a smile as he sat next to the girl, making her latch onto him in an instant. The detective saw this and put on a small friendly smile. He walked up to the girl and crouched low. Hello Eri, I was hoping if I can ask you some questions. Eri looked to the detective with a hesitant look on her face before she turned to Izuku. The teen gave her a smile and nodded his head, so she turned to the detective and nodded her head. The questions did not go as everyone planned. Simple questions: where are you from, who are your parents, and what's your full name? However, for every question Eri Earthier did have an answer. By the end of the questioning from both Eri and Izuku, there was more question than before and the little girl had fallen asleep on the couch. The adults and Izuku all gather around in the kitchen. There was a grim air as they sat around the table. Tsukauchi, was she telling the truth? All Might asked in a low tone, hoping the little girl lying. The detective sighed and shook his head. Yes, everything she said was true. That seemed to bring an even grimmer air. No last name, no parent's name, and the only place she can remember being is a white room and a man with a beak mask. But how can a child not know anything? Inko asked, looking a little shaken. Tsukauchi's face hardened as he rubbed his chin in thought. It's possible she's been sheltered from the moment she is born. But why would a villain take a little girl for that long? Izuku asked while rubbing his face. This was turning out to be way more complicated. Detective Tsukauchi was quiet for a long moment before he answered. It's most likely her quirk, he said, grabbing everyone's attention. Children more often than not inherit the quirk of their parents, Earthier with it slightly changed or the exact same. It's possible a group of villains kidnapped her from a young age in order to use her quirk. All Might's face was shadowed at the grim conclusion. Inko covered her mouth with a look of horror on her face, and Izuku just felt sick to his stomach. What do we do now? Izuku asked as he squeezed his hand, nearly causing it to bleed. All Might rubbed his face. She's going to need a doctor, she looks malnourished and hasn't been in the sun for a long time. Also, I don't